think so. That's what she just told me. The Palm Beach Garden one.
I'm at because I was supposed to go to East Hartford for the IBR, but they canceled most of the things we were supposed to do with it.
Oh yeah, this is live.
You never go TDY either, do you?
Nope. Not unless I find an.
I wish I did.
Next time
I mean,
you
if
want
I
to
were
come down
you,
to
yeah.
test again, you're coming
Yeah.
with.
Well, hello,
Oh,
sir.
sir.
How's the retired life treating you?
It's I failed retirement. I'm working a little bit now.
Are you consulting?
Yeah.
With who?
The WA director, Veterans
That's awesome.
Aircraft.
Yeah, we had a feeling that you probably find your way back.
Yeah, like half the time.
Half the time?
Half the time.
What do you do in your free time?
Whatever.
What's
I want.
Fantastic.
Whatever I want. Yeah, thank you. Good seeing you.
I wish I could go TDY.
Next time you want to go to test, you're coming with.
You
I
could
say
still
come to
jump
the
on.
per,
Yeah.
but she says she's too low.
You could come down for testing with me.
No, so we actually talked about the purse specifically. We were told we're not going to do it because
Space.
no, because Devin would probably have to go instead of us, and she's in charge. It's it's executive.
Staying through that weekend on that whole song test. Test.
Can I come down for tests? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, work it, get approval.
As long as we have who's your supervisor?
Devin.
Oh.
Well, actually, Mr. Stewart, who's wearing the Stars and Stripes tie.
Yeah, as long as your supervisor
They call
approval,
him
let me know, and I'm already working for me.
I think so. I'm not really sure.
I mean, with our budget, yeah.
But it'll be work. Work needs to be done to make it happen, but it's not. Don't.
What?
Murder.
So you're gonna be which days?
I'm there. I'm there.
When I walked in the table. Yeah, I can. So, because Lonnie was gonna take. Is your testing happening this? I'll tell you.
But supposedly, I can't confirm nor.
As much as you can confirm, it will be tough.
I have to.
Yeah.
Lonnie, do you think that I could come down for the testing in 2 weeks?
I am purring right there. So I think
I'm staying.
she's staying after for that. So we'll go down. She'll be down there.
Yeah, I can work it.
The purr is next week.
Yes, and Christine's not going down for the fur, so I'm not going to go down for the fur. But I think it'd be cool to go down for testing because that's what we initially tried to do before the second liberation happened.
Well, if you get supervisor approval, you can just work.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yes.
Well, I'm hoping they're running down Tuesday, so I hope they're
Are you
running
going to be there? Well, I guess
Wednesday.
I don't know. I don't know the schedule. Schedule changes every day.
I'm gonna say it doesn't. Is next week? Is that Ram?
No,
No,
we won't get to Ram by next week.
Okay.
it won't just be
Where are you
us
going?
breaking it.
Stop the conversation here, though.
Oh, did you turn it on?
Yes.
Oh.
We gotta stop bringing the conversation.
Jeff Miles is wearing a suit.
How are you, good, sir?
Good. This is where all the action's happening back here.
This is my
Currently
Sanctioner.
on recording.
Not anybody would do this.
Where's the mark? Engineering head for LP. Who was in chief engineer of the
All duty.
Lieutenant Colonel Reserve.
We think smarts.
Yeah, I heard it was nice. Like I've been told by connected. I mean, it does not hurt to figure. Like I talked to
Nobody has joined.
Where's the audio picking up?
But this,
Yeah, right there.
yeah, I heard it yesterday when they were doing with their speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was-
So it's like perfectly recording our conversation.
well, I don't. It's picking up all of this other scatter. So,
Still be the loud one.
oh, someone's on here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin shortly. If you could at this time, make your way to your seats and please silence or turn off any cell phones or
Oh, I
electronic
can't see
devices.
who's.
Thank you. Good afternoon. On behalf of our presiding official, Mr. John Sneed, Propulsion Directorate, Air Force Life Cycle Management Center, I would like to welcome you today to the celebration of the promotion of Lieutenant Colonel James Rodriguez to the rank of Colonel in the United States Air Force. I am Major Adam Satterfield, and I'm honored to be the narrator for today's event. At this time, I would like everyone to please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the presentation of the colors, the singing of the national anthem by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Condon Rock, the posting of the colors by the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Honor Guard, followed by the invocation by Dr. James Reisner.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Oops. Oops.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Condon Brock. Dr. Reisner, will you please come forward and give the invitation?
Would you pray with me? Our Father God, we thank you for being the giver of all good gifts. You are indeed the Father of lights, and with you is no shadow of turning. We give you thanks and celebrate the good gifts you've given to us. The gift of James, his promotion we celebrate today, his mentors, and their investment into his life. We know that everything, including our advancements, are in your hands, and that you grant us great responsibility to steward our lives well, for your glory and for the sake of the life of the world. So we ask, may James steward this promotion well. Graciously grant him wisdom as he leads, grant him humility as he serves, and love as he builds up every teammate. Help him to order his loves properly, loving you, family, vocation, and country. As he serves, multiply his influence, that his value to the United States Air Force would continue to increase. And God, may he hope in the Lord Jesus and renew his strength. May he soar on wings like eagles. May he run and not grow weary. May he walk and not be faint. We pray these things in the power of the Holy Spirit and in the name of the one who is this man's greatest strength and only hope, King of kings and Lord of lords, Jesus our Messiah. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Reisner. Please be seated. We are honored to have some special guests with us today. Please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. We would like to begin with a very warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez's family, his spouse Michelle, their children Benjamin, Elena, John, and Gabriel, his father and mother, Juan and Melody, and his father and mother-in-law, Colonel Dan Hicks, United States Air Force retired, and Miss Jean Hicks. We are also very pleased to welcome our distinguished guest, Mr. Ryan Penenshaw, Senior Material Leader and Chief of the Propulsion Directorate. Finally, we extend a special thank you to all veterans, past and present, current and former senior leaders, community partners, and other distinguished visitors and family members and friends who are joining us here today and online, celebrating Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez's promotion. We are extremely grateful that you could join us today. Welcome. This time, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the presiding official, Mr. John Sneed.
Yeah, so I hurt my knee a few weeks ago. So I appreciate the patience on a very slow arrival of the official party. But James is right behind me. I'm sorry, Coach Rodriguez was right behind me. Track coach Rodriguez was right behind me, telling me pick up the pace and lift my knees, and I was right back in high school all over again. So every now and then, you encounter someone that is just truly exceptional in every way. An embodiment of service, sacrifice, and leadership and care for the people and the mission. Someone that, when they reach a huge milestone like this, that their leadership, the service, their peers, their friends, their family, all unanimously say, that's right. That's the right thing to happen to that person. James, you are that rare person. It's my honor to be able to speak on your behalf today and celebrate your promotion to the prestigious rank of Colonel, United States Air Force. What a great gathering. I know we have family, friends, and coworkers all locally here and virtually to support you on this well-earned milestone in your life. James, drink this in. You only turned Colonel once. But I'll also offer that the way you serve and lead, I'm willing to bet this won't be your last promotion opportunity. Again, a heartfelt welcome to your wife, Michelle, and your wonderful children. This is an opportunity to talk about you all. Never. The center of his universe, and he well knows that his success wouldn't be possible without all of your unwavering love and support. So in many ways, this ceremony really is for you too. So you can see the positive impacts on the Air Force that each of you enabled through your love and sacrifice. So thank you for all that you have done. So James and I didn't have a chance to work directly with one another until his current assignment in the Propulsion Directorate. In both of our previous assignments, though, we were at the Pentagon working for SAF-AQ. This is the organization that leads all the Air Force's acquisition, technology, and logistics efforts. I was leading the division that oversaw the execution of the Air Force's modernization programs, and James was the Executive Action Group Chief, supporting the politically appointed leader of the organization and his military and civilian deputies. Now, James will tell you that this is one of the best assignments he's had, one of the most rewarding, and also one of the most challenging. On the good end, he got to be a part of every program, got to work with exceptional people. He got to be a part of those congratulatory services, like when we delivered the first KC-46. James got to be a part of having a congratulatory drink with the Secretary of the Air Force. Very cool, right? Very cool. And on the other side of the equation, 3,000 staff packages a year rolling through his office, 12-plus-hour days, always running at full speed. There was no easy button on any given day. But as you can imagine, much of the workload of the organization is really complex. And some of the people, we'll just say, struggled more than others to get the job done. So James took advantage of this and got one of these little preschool toy buses. The type of yellow thing, it's got brown people that kind of fit in it, right? And he called it the struggle bus. So if you were struggling with the boss, you got placed on James's struggle bus. You did not want to be on the struggle bus. You did not want to have your name affixed to one of the little round people that were on the struggle bus. So I will tell you that who was on or off the bus at any given moment was a pretty closely guarded secret in SAF-AQ. So when Jake started working in the Propulsion Directorate, I just had one very simple question for him. And that was I on the struggle bus? And which character was I? And to James's credit, he's just so kind and so polite, and just he put my mind at ease by immediately staring off into space and changing the topic. Right? So thanks for that, James. Really appreciate that. Well before his current assignment, though, James got to start his military career in his hometown. So he actually got to start with the United States Air Force Academy. And of course, the Academy is one of the most prestigious universities in the nation. It has a tremendous aeronautical engineering program, incredibly difficult to be selected for, which is just a testament to how incredible and intelligent James was from day one. Now, his original plan was pretty simple. Go to the academy, get his aeronautical engineering degree, serve his 5 years, and then get out. Okay? But something took hold of James almost instantly. It's this confluence of camaraderie, discipline, tradition, and service to this nation that set this deep foundation for James' current leadership philosophy of excellence in all of his actions, treating all with respect, being humble and approachable, and always being the first to offer a smile and have some fun. James, with over 20 years of hindsight, I'd say you made the right choice, yeah? Good on you for that. Glad you're here today. As a lieutenant, James served as a subsystems engineer for a premier fighter, the F-22. He managed the fuel system, engine integration, and fire protection systems to meet performance requirements and drive on-schedule aircraft deliveries for air combat command warfighters. And another testament to his intellect, James was selected to attend the Air Force's Institute of Technology, where he earned a Master's of Science degree in Systems Engineering. Outstanding. As a captain, he became a test director and analyst for $6.8 billion in intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance platforms. He ensured that those systems' operational effectiveness for the warfighter was always in place. He was selected as only one of 17 Air Force officers for the prestigious Logistics Career Program, where he led depot-level maintenance and supply chain activities, supporting the C-5 and our electronic warfare systems. This assignment introduced James to the operational side of the Air Force and served to not only produce lifelong friends, but it set a concrete foundation of what we do on the acquisition side matters greatly on the operations side and on all of our logistics activities. And that is a lesson that James has never forgotten throughout his career. One of his first actions as major was to volunteer for a deployment to Afghanistan, where he served as a lead military advisor. He guided a 530-member team to train the Afghan National Army on advanced acquisition techniques necessary to supply and sustain 200,000 troops without coalition support. This was a hands-on job that got James outside the wire on a frequent basis, interfacing with his Afghan counterparts, working with interpreters, and making a difference. Now, James will tell you that maybe the favorite part was that he got to train on machine guns and grenades and flying a Black Ops helicopter through the mountains. But in fairness, that was my favorite part too. So. He had his first stint in production and propulsion as a major. He led the $100 million component improvement program to ensure the safety, reliability, and maintainability of over 27,000 Air Force and international engines. His efforts ensured our propulsion fleet remained the safest in the world. He served as the deputy chief for the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center's Commander Action Group, supporting the mission to execute over 4,000 programs valued at over $200 million. And as the chief for program execution initiatives at the Pentagon, he led the Air Force review, reporting, and congressional communications efforts for hundreds of billions of dollars of critical programs that kept us on track for delivering capability to our warfighter customers. Outstanding work. As Lieutenant Colonel, James served as the Chief of Congressional Communications, where he formulated and directed congressional communication strategies and engagements to ensure the USAF's $142 billion President's budget programmatic priorities was sufficiently resourced. As I mentioned earlier, he led the Executive Action Group for the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Acquisition Technology and Logistics, guiding and advising a nearly 700-member team to effectively address strategic USAF priorities and support the National Defense Strategy. And finally, and near and dear to my heart, he served as the material leader for the Adaptive Engine Transition Program, or ATP. This program represents something very special. It's the first non-derivative engine development program that the Air Force has done in over 30 years. It's game-changing engine technology, maintains our propulsion lead over China while delivering a 30% increase in range. It means more time on mission, less anchor dependency, 18% increase in thrust, which means more survivability, and all the capability to run the most advanced avionics systems for years to come. James made that happen. Made that happen. He led the team to design, fabricate, and test the world's first adaptive fighter engines. He ensured hundreds of hours of successful tests, poised the engine for potential incorporation into the F-35, and he even led and outbriefed a SECAF-directed operational evaluation reflecting the game-changing efficacy of this technology in the F-35. Now, as you can imagine, changing the engine out in one of our premier fighters represents billions of dollars in investment. To say the least, it's high-stakes endeavor with all the drama, political engagement, and senior leader visibility that you can imagine. So, on the day of our outbrief to the Secretary of the Air Force and most of the senior Air Force leaders, some of us, maybe it was me, flew out the day before the briefing to make sure that we would be there on time. And then somebody, maybe it was me again, actually advised the briefer, James, to make sure that that he was out there early too. But James, knowing so much more, decided that no, I'll fly out the morning of, and I'll make it there with plenty of time. So guess what? His flight got canceled that morning. So, but as a testament to his tenacity and dedication, James set the land speed record from Dayton, Ohio to Washington, D.C. and actually made it there with about an hour to spare. But it was well worth it too. He did an absolutely tremendous job for the Secretary of the Air Force and all the Air Force leadership. He set the table for the entire services, staunch support of this critical technology. James did a tremendous job. Can't thank you enough. James's next assignment will be to earn yet another master's degree. So this is the third time that he's going to help going to school for the Air Force. He'll be going to the Dwight D. Eisenhower School for National Security and Resource Strategy in Washington, D.C. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Eisenhower School, it is the DoD's elite senior development education opportunity. It's extremely competitive to attend, and yet it's just another indication of what a stellar officer James is. There he's going to study the DoD's industrial base, economics, leadership, strategy, and ensure the Air Force is always ready in its mission to fly, fight, win. Remember the bar though, James, DG, right? Distinguished graduate, not big graduate. Yeah? Okay. All right. So what I want to leave you with is that across all of his assignments, James has left a legacy of excellence, leadership, camaraderie, and service to our warfighter. He has left every organization that he's worked for better than he found it. His accolades include a Bronze Star, winning the Undersecretary of Defense Workforce Achievement Award for acquisition in an expeditionary environment, earning the AFMC Jabara Airmanship Award, which recognizes excellence in prior Air Force Academy graduates, the AFMC Analysis Team Excellence Award for his leadership in the SECAF-directed adaptive engine analysis for the F-35, and the AFL-CMC Von Karman Award for outstanding contribution to national defense in the field of aerospace. Make no mistake, James has well earned his promotion, and as he pins on this rank, he's going to join an elite group that represents the backbone of the Air Force's leadership corps. Our colonels are the ones who manage our weapon systems across the life cycle, who deliver capability at every turn, who inspire the thousands that they lead and influence, and who tackle the toughest challenge that this service has to offer. James is the perfect addition to this corps. James, it's been an honor. You are without a doubt one of the finest officers I've had the pleasure to work with. The Air Force is better because of your outstanding contributions to the team, to the mission, to our warfighter. Congratulations on your promotion. I and everyone here wish you nothing but the best at Eisenhower and your follow-on assignments. As I mentioned at the beginning, I look forward to seeing your next promotion. Thank you. So before we move on to the to the rest of the pomp and circumstance, I want to present James with two things today. One is from Colonel Hall, and it's your Colonel's coin. And he wishes he could be here today, but unfortunately he injured his shoulder. And unlike the Lethal Weapon movies, he refused to put it back into socket. And so he wanted to present this on your behalf. It's got your date of rank of 1 June 2023 on it. And then, James, I know that I've already given you our elite coin. I want to also give you the directorate coin, my coin. And it's a representation of the excellence that you brought to the propulsion community at every turn. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Sneed. Please stand for the reading and presentation of the Meritorious Service Medal, 3rd Oak Leaf Cluster. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of Meritorious Service Medal, 3rd Oak Leaf Cluster, to Lieutenant Colonel James A. Rodriguez. Lieutenant Colonel James Rodriguez distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Adaptive Engines Material Leader, Propulsion Acquisition Division, Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, Air Force Material Command, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. During this period, Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez directed the $4 billion Adaptive Engine Transition Program to mature game-changing adaptive engine technology and next-generation propulsion risk for multiple combat applications. Exemplary leadership was pivotal in the development and testing of the world's first ever lightweight 3-stream adaptive engine prototypes, demonstrating 30% increase in range for the F-35 and ensuring future air dominance for the Department of Defense. Additionally, Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez was the driving force behind the Air Force strategic pivot on propulsion modernization by fast-tracking completion of a 4-month F-35 operational assessment directed by the Secretary of the Air Force. His tireless efforts working across air staff to study the adaptive engine impacts yielded a reduction in tanker demand by 50% and convinced the Air Force and Department of Defense senior leadership of the revolutionary capabilities provided by the adaptive engines. The singular distinctive accomplishments of Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Please remain. Please remain standing for the reading of the promotion orders. Attention orders. The President of the United States, acting upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Air Force, has placed special trust, confidence, and patriotism and integrity of Lieutenant Colonel James A. Rodriguez. In view of these special qualities and his demonstrated potential to serve in a higher grade, Lieutenant Colonel James A. Rodriguez is promoted to the grade of Colonel, United States Air Force, effective the 1st of June, 2023. Thank you, Mr. Sneed. Everyone, please be seated. At this time, I would like to invite Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez's family to come forward and pin on his new rank. It is customary for family members or close friends to participate in the pinning ceremony to recognize their contribution to the promotee's success in achieving the higher rank. The rank being pinned on Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez today was given to him by his father-in-law, Colonel Dan Hicks, United States Air Force retired. Eagles have been a popular symbol in military service, stretching back to the Roman Republic, where the symbol of the eagle was carried atop the staff at the head of marching Roman legions. In this capacity, the eagle symbolized strength, courage, and farsightedness. In medieval heraldry, eagles signified that the wearer was a judicious man of action. When the eagles were outspread, similar to our modern rank, it indicated the bearer's role as a protector. Colonels in the United States military started wearing eagles as a rank insignia in 1829, when they were transferred from the gold or gilded eagles that decorated their hat brims to their collars. After 1831, colonels wore silver eagles on their gold epaulets. During World War I and throughout World War II, the tradition arose of wearing the rank so that the head of the eagle was always arranged to face forward as if facing an oncoming enemy. After making some minor modifications, the Air Force eventually codified this wear into regulation, and to this day, the colonel insignia is always worn so that the eagle is looking forward with its head towards those who would do the United States harm. At the same time, clutched in the forward-facing talon is an olive branch, indicative of the desire to use military force to achieve everlasting peace. The enduring tradition of the eagle insignia embodies the values and principles of our military service. It signifies strength, courage, and foresight, and an unwavering commitment to safeguard the United States and its citizens. Thank you, Rodriguez family. At this time, I would like to invite Colonel Dan Hicks, United States Air Force retired, to come forward and administer the oath of office.
Having been appointed a colonel in the United States Air Force, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any reservation or purpose of evasion. Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. Of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. So help me God.
Thank you, Colonel Hicks. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the newest colonel in the United States Air Force, Colonel James A. Rodriguez. Sir, the floor.
Well, thank you. I'm sure it won't feel real for a little while. I normally am somebody that just speaks off the cuff. But I told my family that I was going to write them down today because I know I'll probably get a little emotional. And this will help me not get emotional. But before I get too far, I do want to make sure that I spend a few minutes recognizing those who've been a part of this special day. These events don't pull themselves together without the help of a lot of people. And a lot of them are sitting in the back there right now. A little more than 2 months ago, I actually asked Master Sergeant Rich to be the lead in pulling this ceremony together. He put in a ton of work, laid the foundation. However, I didn't know at the time that he was going to get selected for Senior Master Sergeant and then get picked to go to Senior NCO Academy. So all of a sudden I was left without a project officer. But Captain French stepped right in and took it the rest of the way. Captain French put together a great team that planned every detail for today. Coordinated all the RSVPs, got the cake, the flowers, and made it all happen. So I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody, but Master Sergeant Rich, Captain French, Kelly Coy, Captain Landrum, Lieutenant Connect, Lieutenant James, Lieutenant Blanco, Lieutenant Zielinski, and Tech Sergeant Eric. Thank you all. I really appreciate the hard work and the attention to detail that you put into making today special. JCP, thank you for singing the national anthem today. It was a beautiful job. It's always special to have somebody that you know be a part of your ceremony. And it's just phenomenal working with you. I really enjoyed working with you side by side the last year in LPA. And I really enjoy having somebody that shares a lot of the viewpoints that I do about the Air Force and a lot of the same leadership philosophy. And I look forward to your continued friendship. I'll never forget, though, the commitment that we made to each other that someday we're going to fix all the things that are broken in the Air Force when we both have 4 stars on our shoulders. So looking forward to that. We'll see. James, thank you for the invitation today. Getting to know you and your family has been one of the greatest parts of us attending Dayton Avenue Baptist. You and Jenny are wonderful, and we've learned so much from you guys about how to live your faith on a daily basis, and I just am so thrilled to have you here today. Okay, so over the past few weeks, I've spent a lot of time thinking about these last 21 years. Not gonna look at her anymore. It's been a pretty awesome journey. And I can't think of a more fitting way to begin my remarks than with the simple phrase, Soli Deo Gloria, which means glory to God alone. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. I try to live by this verse and pray that my endeavors throughout my career have brought glory to Him. So moving on to people, well, it's finally here. Colonel, definitely feels a little weird to be standing here today as a colonel with you guys. I still don't feel old enough to be a colonel. Maybe it's because Michelle's dad retired as a colonel. Maybe it's because while I was at the academy, the department heads were colonels. Or maybe it's just that mystique of the full bird. But it's going to take a little while to get used to it, I'm sure. I always thought of colonels as the ones that were full of wisdom and knowledge, and that they were the ones that you went to for advice. I guess that's me now. But looking back at my career, there's literally been dozens of people that I can point to that have had a significant impact. Some of them are here today, some of them are not. And I hope that those that are not are able to log in and be a part of the live stream today. Within those dozens of people, though, there's a few specifically that I wanted to make sure that I gave special recognition to today. So to start off with, going back to the very beginning of my career, Larry Shabandi. Many of you may not know the story of how I was accepted into the Air Force Academy, but I firmly believe that my acceptance was a story of God's providence in my life. Perhaps foolishly, when I was in high school, the only schools that I applied to were service academies. I didn't have a backup plan, but somehow knew that I was supposed to go to the Air Force Academy. That being said, I remember being discouraged when I went to my congressman's office for one of my interviews for a nomination and saw boxes full of records and rows and rows of chairs for prospective cadets. I thought to myself, there's just no way that I'll be selected out of these hundreds of applicants. Despite all odds, I somehow found myself with a nomination and proudly showed up that first day of basic, June 30th, 1998, as a 17-year-old kid. I had gotten to know Larry Shabandi during my senior year of high school, since his son Aaron, a classmate of mine, applied for and attended West Point. He worked for the Navigators, and one of the things that he did was lead a weekly Bible study for cadets during basic training. Well, 2 weeks into basic, I was done. I was ready to quit. And I went to Bible study that night, and I found Larry, and I told him, I'm going to go talk to my upperclassmen tomorrow and tell them I'm done. I'm going to quit. He looked right at me. and said, "Did you forget about how you got here already?" He was so right. I had forgotten. And that was all I needed to hear. I was supposed to be there. And I was meant to serve in the Air Force. Now, just shy of 25 years, I'm still here. And it's because Larry challenged me to remember why I'm here. Thanks, Larry. Tim Egan. Tim was my first boss in the Air Force. Tim was a brand new supervisor, and somehow he had never worked with a lieutenant before. I still remember my first meeting with him where he told me, "I'm not really sure what I have to do for you as a military, but I'm just going to treat you like the rest of my GS-13s. He then said, "I know you don't have any idea what you're doing, so when, but not if, you get stuck, just come and see me." Over the next 2 years or so, I am sure I wore out my welcome because I went to his office countless times to ask him what I was supposed to be doing. But he always had time for me. What an opportunity for this lieutenant to be working for him. When the program office needed somebody to spend a month at Edwards during IOT&E, I was the only one that volunteered, since nobody wanted to spend a month at Edwards. When considering me as a volunteer, the general in charge of the SPO said to my boss, Tim, "I don't think we can just send a lieutenant. We need to send somebody that's a little more experienced than that." But Tim stuck up for me and said to the general, "Just trust me, James can handle it." I still don't know if I met his expectations for me while I was there, but it sure meant the world to me that my boss stuck up for me and trusted me. So moving on a couple assignments later to Logistics Career Broadening Program, I need to thank my Logistics Career Broadening Officer peers. Still one of the highlights of my career. As Mr. Sneed said, I was one of 17 that was selected, but I was the only acquisition officer. And what I didn't know at the time, but later found out, is that the 11 people that were in the program with me at Robbins, all of which were maintainers and logistics readiness officers, were truly competitively selected. As an acquisition officer, I think there was a pretty small pool. It was a couple of us, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But for the loggies and the maintainers, they were what's called all in, meaning that they didn't have a choice, and their entire career field had to volunteer or had to meet the board. That being said, that meant that they represented the true cream of the crop. And I was just an average officer, or so I felt. I learned more in those 2 years about how to be an officer than I have in the rest of my career. I learned what excellence truly looked like. I learned what mentorship looked like. I learned about the rest of the Air Force, the operational side of the Air Force. And I'd like to think perhaps a small part of their excellence rubbed off me, but I still remain in awe of each of them. All of my classmates were influential in my life, but specifically Cisco Harris, Sam Mink, Travis Bohannon, and Eric Quidley, many of whom have pinned on Colonel for me now. You all have had, and continue to have a profound impact on my career. Thank you. After Robbins, I came here to write PAT, and as Mr. Speed said, one of the assignments I had was working on the Commander's Action Group for the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. 3 individuals while I was there had tremendous impact: Lynn Evanston, Tom Zerba, and Colonel Quick. Our team on the Commander's Action Group was very close-knit, which made those 12-hour days bearable, but it was the leadership, specifically those 3, that made it really special. I was given the privilege somehow, again, I lucked into it, of being the special projects officer for Lynn Evanston. She, who was at the time and still is, the director of plans and programs. She was in the midst of building the Air Force's top budget priority for that year. It was called Planning Choices. And I was assigned the task of doing whatever she needed. I coordinated meetings, I built charts, I kept leadership informed of the project. But the times that I valued the most were when she would call me down to her office and ask my opinion on something. She certainly didn't need my opinion. She's one of the smartest people in LCMC. But for some reason, she valued my opinion. Maybe I was just a good sounding board, but again, it meant the world to me that she wanted to know what I thought. I've often said that she is one of the 2 people that I worked with in the Air Force that if she asked me to come work for her again, I would drop everything immediately and go do it. Tom Zerba was the director of staff for LCMC, and he was my direct supervisor. Tom is a lawyer, and his attention to detail is impeccable. His capacity for information was insatiable. I don't know how he did as much as he did. And he taught me how to process tons of information rapidly while still paying attention to those fine details. Those became invaluable skills for the remainder of my career, and I still appreciate the time I spent with Tom. And then finally, Colonel Quick. I'm sure that any of you in this room that know Colonel Quick would agree with me that she was quite simply just a fantastic mentor. At least from my perspective, she just knew how the Air Force really worked. She really cared about helping everybody accomplish their goals. And I have no doubt today that without her push and her personally influencing my ability to go to SAF AQ, I would never have been able to work there, which certainly became a significant turning point in my career. So thank you. A few more. While at SAF AQ, about a year after I was assigned there, I was given a project. It was an overwhelming project to be the Air Force lead on Secretary Wilson's latest project. She was brand new in the seat and really, really loved acquisition. And she decided that she wanted the Air Force to publish a year-end prospectus, similar to a Fortune 500 company. And she wanted it to be able to go to Congress and be a report on all of the major acquisition programs that we manage. She also wanted it to be glossy and compelling, not some boring DoD report. And I got that task of doing it. And of course, we had about 3 months to do it. As the newly assigned Stuckey, I was fortunate enough to find myself working with Captain Emily Grabowski. She was a public affairs officer, and she turned my life upside down with how to communicate. For the purposes of this report, she forced me to eliminate all of my acquisition jargon. I wasn't allowed to talk about milestones or IOCs or EMDs. If those terms don't mean anything to you, come talk to me later. But she forced me to write in a manner that was simple enough that my grandma could understand acquisition, as she would say. No small task indeed. And it was just an amazing time being able to spend time outside of my career field, because I literally planted my desk next to her down in PA, not in AQ, and spent the next 3 months side by side working through this report. General Bunch. No single leader, I think, has been as influential in my career as General Bunch. Somehow, he chose me to come up and work in the AQ front office as the Chief Executive Action Member. I never would have dreamed to be given an opportunity like that. That's not the kind of job that normal officers have, I told myself. Only rock stars get jobs like that. Well, the fact that he chose me meant that I was going to do anything for him. He was a tremendous servant leader. And being able to spend time in his office one-on-one with him nearly every day was the opportunity of a lifetime. He made me want to do better every day. And although sometimes I let him down, he managed to give feedback in a way that just made me want to do better the next time. It was like working for your dad, where having a stamp of approval was the greatest privilege ever. And just like Lynn Evanston, I'd work for him again in a heartbeat if I was ever asked. And finally, Mr. Steve. Sir, first off, I just want to say thanks. Your words today were just extremely honoring that I'm for you to be in here. I know how busy your calendar is, and I'm truly honored that you took the time to be here and be a part of my special day. Despite being geographically separated, you're probably the closest relationship I've ever had with a senior leader. I've been honored to spend time with you across dozens of TDYs, eating dinner together, meetings, congressional engagements, contractor visits, and more. You've been a tremendous mentor, confidant, friend, and leader. And I'm so thankful that you've trusted my ability to lead this program, and I look forward to staying in touch in the future. And now finally onto the family. All right, so this is the part where I'm going to take the microphone and come down a little closer, because otherwise you're going to see me going up and down these stairs a dozen times. So I'm going to start with my parents, my in-laws, Dan and Jean. I definitely won when it came to the in-law lottery, and couldn't have wished for better ones. I've loved having a family that I can share the Air Force side of my life with, at a level that few others truly can. Thanks for always being there for Michelle and I, for loving our children, and for visiting often and modeling retirement life well. I look forward to doing that someday too. All right, next to my parents. It's pretty cliche, of course, to say that without them I wouldn't be here, which is certainly true, but in this case, definitely appropriate. It's not just the physical presence, though. Everything I am today was molded by my parents. From my dad, I learned the value of hard work, attention to detail, and quiet strength. From my mom, I learned compassion, service, and how to love others. They were formative in my faith, my profession, and supported me in every facet of my life. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for being here, for always being there in the past, and I know that you'll always be there for me in the future. I love you. Okay, we're doing good so far. To my kids, I'm going to do all four of them. Benjamin just finished his junior year at Legacy Christian Academy and has made quite the name for himself as a cross-country and track athlete, musician and actor, student leader, and excellent student. I'm so proud of the well-rounded, excellent young man that you're becoming. I'm thrilled as well that you're interested in pursuing service in our nation's military as well. There's no greater honor that a dad can have to see their sons follow in their footsteps. Although I'd love to see you in the Air Force, I know that I will be proud with whatever career you choose. Hebrews 12 says, "Let us run with endurance the race that is set before you, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. Keep him first, and he'll bless your path." I love you. Elena also just finished her sophomore and junior year at Legacy Christian Academy and is a tremendous student, pianist, cross-country runner, and track runner. She's upset when she gets lower than an A+, and is now taking summer school through Cedarville so that she can graduate in 3 years instead of 4, so that she didn't have to possibly move in between her junior and senior year. Elena, I'm so proud of the beautiful and intelligent young woman that you're becoming. You have such a servant's heart, and I can't wait to see how God uses you in your life. 1 Peter 4 says, "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Keep serving others, and he'll bless you." I love you. John just finished 7th grade at the Rodriguez Homeschool Academy. John and I share a mutual love of Denver Broncos and football. He loves learning at home because he can really dive into the things that interest him. His passion to study the history of war is mind-boggling for somebody of his age. And I think his interest in the Revolutionary War a few years ago was the catalyst for him reenacting massive battle scenes with Army men in our sunroom. John, your passion for life is contagious. I love that you can show as much excitement for things as you do. You inspire me to get out of my boring ways and show emotion in life like you do. I'm so proud of the young man that you're growing into. Proverbs 17 says that a joyful heart is good medicine. John, sometimes your joy can be a little much for the introverts of our family. But never stop. Don't lose the joy that you have in life and share it with everyone. I love you. Gabriel is finishing up his first grade at the Rodriguez Homeschool Academy. And one of the things that I love about Gabriel is that he gets excited at the smallest things. The other day, he found a snakeskin in our yard, a place that I certainly wouldn't have looked. He also has found numerous rocks in our yard with fossilized teeth or leaves. And I'm reminded whenever he finds something that we could all use a reminder to slow down. And focus on the small things right in front of us. We often miss because we're focused on important things. Gabriel, I'm so proud of all the things that you've learned this year, and I love having you as part of our family. Zechariah 4 says, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see your work begin. Keep focusing on those small things in life because God uses small things. I love you. All right, Benjamin just told me not to cry. So finally, my wife. Michelle, where do I start? I could spend longer than any of you care to listen about all the ways that she has supported me. But I'll spare you some of the details and try to keep it brief. She's the rock that keeps our family steady through everything. All of my TDYs, deployments, long days at the office, etc. You have been the constant, and I owe everything to you. I find it fitting that this promotion day fell this weekend, or not really a weekend, but May 29th, May 31st, sorry, but it matters because of May 29th, sorry. So May 29th has just become an important, this weekend, this Memorial Day week has become an important week in our lives. It just so happens that our 19th anniversary was also May 29th. If you saw the slideshow before the ceremony, you may have noticed that my promotion to first lieutenant was in mess dress because we did it right before our wedding on May 29th. My graduation from the academy was May 29th. Memorial Day weekend has just become quite the memory-filled weekend for us. And now we have one more to add. Not only is the date significant, this location is significant. I have fond memories of our early days dating, when you were living in the sketchy apartments right across from Harshman Avenue, from the museum. And Patterson will always feel like a significant part of our lives. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for loving me, for supporting me in everything I do, and for being my biggest fan. Quite simply, I love you. I got one more thing really quickly. So that's almost enough talking for me. I do want to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming today. I'm honored that you would take time out of your day to spend it with me. There is a little bit more of the ceremony left and then cake and punch to enjoy. So it's time to move on. But before I do, my son John told me that he'd pay me $1 to quote his favorite movie, Penguins of Madagascar, by saying, and this is in reference to the cake, because that's what he is here for today. I think it's clear what we need to do next.
Thank you, Colonel Rodriguez. Mr. Steeden, would you please join Colonel Rodriguez, Center keeping with Air Force tradition, we will conclude today's ceremony with the playing of the Air Force song. Please stand and remain standing for the departure of the official flag and distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's ceremony. Please come congratulate Colonel Rodriguez at the receiving line in front of the auditorium. Also, the Rodriguez family would like to invite you to join them for refreshments in the back of the room. Thank you for attending today's ceremony and have an outstanding day.